have the announcements, please?
What happened to Jim?
She's good.
I raced like heck to beat you.
Before we begin the agenda, the Wichita-Sedgwick County Metropolitan Area Planning Commission and the Wichita-Sedgwick County Board of Zoning Appeals would like to take this opportunity to welcome everyone to this public hearing. Copies of the agenda for today's meeting, the public hearing procedure, and Planning Department staff reports on all agenda items are available in the lobby of this conference room. The Planning Commission's and the BZA's bylaws limit the applicant on a zoning, subdivision, or variance application and his or her representative to a total of 10 minutes of speaking time at the start of the hearing on that item, plus up to 2 minutes at the conclusion of that hearing. All other persons wishing to speak on agenda items are limited to 3 minutes per person. However, if they feel that it is needed and justified, the chairman may extend these times by up to 2 minutes. All speakers are requested to state his or her name and address for the record when beginning to speak. When you are finished speaking, please write your name, address, and the case number on the sheet provided in the lobby. This will enable staff to notify you if there are any additional proceedings concerning that item. Please note that all written and visual materials you present to the Commission and the Board will be retained by the Secretary as part of the official record. If you are not speaking but you wish to be notified about future proceedings on a particular case, please sign in on that same sheet. The Planning Commission and the Board are interested in hearing the views of all persons who wish to express themselves on the agenda items. However, we ask that all speakers please be as concise as possible and avoid long repetitions of facts or opinions which have already been stated. For your information, the Wichita City Council has adopted a policy for all city zoning items. A copy of this policy is available in the lobby. The City Council relies on a written record of the Planning Commission hearings and does not conduct its own additional public hearings on these items. The decision of the BZA is final. Any appeal of a decision of the BZA is to district court.
Thank you. I would like to welcome everyone here today and acknowledge that we have perfect attendance. Thank you very much for all you being here. At this time, we have 3 sets of minutes for approval, the January 4th, January 18th, and April 19th.
You want it for all 3 or just one?
Let's try all 3.
Make a motion we approve all 3.
There were some that were absent some days and some that weren't, so
Let's take them individually.
that's
Okay,
what
Mr.
we
Daly.
need to do.
Make a motion January 4th be approved.
I've got several corrections to be made on that one, and I'll get with Anna after the meeting and show her what just typos mainly.
Do we have a list of who was not there on the 4th?
They were all here on the 4th.
Who made the motion?
I made a motion and Cindy seconded it.
And Ms. Miles. Okay, and I'll assume there's no more discussion, and the motion was submitted with changes that Mr. Daly will talk to staff about. Is that acceptable? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Motion we approve January 18th.
Second.
Do we have a motion by Mr. McKay, a second by Mr. Blick?
And another one, I found what I got questionable typo on it. I'll get with
Staff.
after the
Can you
meeting.
accept that first and second?
Yes, yeah.
No, I mean, the motion maker and seconder. You'll accept his changes with the staff, right? Okay. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Make a motion to approve April 19th.
Just a second.
Abstain.
Okay, we have an abstention, and everybody else is in favor. Okay,
Make a motion we approve April 19th
Second.
meetings.
motion by Mr. McKay, second by Ms. Miles. Mr. Daly?
I didn't find anything in that one.
All right, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
And anyone who wasn't here is an abstention. Okay, moving on to the subdivision committee recommendations. We have 2-1, the first step, final plat. Anybody would like to hear that at the table? Seeing none, anyone in the audience wish to hear that item? Seeing none, we can take that, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Green? Seconded by, okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Mr. Foster? No. Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. Thank you, Neil, for being here. Okay. We have no vacation items today, so we'll move right on to case number 4, which is in the public hearing agenda, 2018-00018, county conditional use for an event center in the county on property zoned RR, rural residential. Anyone like to hear that? Just a second. Yeah, okay, no one from the commission? Anybody from the audience like to hear it?
That's the applicant, just, I believe.
Okay. Anyone in the audience like to hear that case?
Somebody in the back in the corner.
Got one
By the
in the
door.
corner.
Oh, okay, I can't see. We'll take that one up. Case number 5, zoning issue 2018-00014. Anyone at the commission like to hear that? Seeing none, anyone in the audience like to hear that? Okay, do we have a motion on 000?
So moved.
Second.
By Mr. Green, and a second by Mr. Dool. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let's go ahead and hear number 4, and then we'll go to the BZA agenda after that. Okay. David?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dave Yera with planning staff. This is a conditional use request for an event center in the county at 8720 South Hoover. This is the property in question. This is Hoover, or as it says, South 55th Street West. 87th Street is shown here in the south. We are just outside of the city of Hayesville, and this is not in their area of interest or their jurisdiction, but we're close. I did talk to the city of Hayesville, and they had no concerns with this case. This is an aerial photo showing the property in question. The applicant's here, and she'll talk more about this, but 87 or Hoover Road is here on the west side that's paved. Access goes into the property. This is a 5-acre tract. You can see the house in the center, and it's primarily the accessory building north of the house where the activity occurs. She's got more information that she'll provide for that. As you can see, we're outside of the urban growth area of the city of Hayesville by about a half mile. This particular site, and this was prepared after a conversation with the county enforcement officers regarding the operation, and this essentially is how they've laid out their operation. You've got the house in the center. The building in question is to the north of the house. There's a parking area west of that building between it and the other accessory building, a large paved area that is west of the house coming in off the main drive coming off of Hoover Road that provides significant parking area for events. There's also outdoor areas that are kind of set aside and reserved for the operation. This is an aerial photo. Here's a copy or the picture. This is the building in question, and the house is to the right here. This kind of shows you access to the open areas. There's kind of a gazebo and some other play areas out behind the house. That's a picture taken essentially from just off of Hoover Road, looking east at the front of the house. The building in question where the event center is on the left side of the picture. This is Hoover Road looking north from the driveway, and Hoover Road looking south from the driveway. And then this is the view from the driveway entrance looking west. You can see it's just a farm field on the west side. So probably the most interested will be this particular slide with respect. Staff is recommending approval. The one issue with the standards and the regulations is that the current regulations indicate that all activity and buildings used for the event center are supposed to be set back from all property lines by 100 feet. Since we're dealing with an existing accessory structure, they cannot meet that 100-foot setback because it does not violate setbacks when it was built as an accessory building. It's a little over 40 feet off that north property line, but they can't meet that standard, obviously. So the request is to allow the waiver of that 100-foot setback standard and allow the existing building to be used as well as all activities associated with the event operation, so long as it's not any closer to the north property line than the building line. As you can see from the aerial, there's mature trees that are on that north side that kind of buffer it, and the use to the north is just a farm field. So all the other standards in the regulations are agreeable. We've talked at length with county code enforcement regarding the use. Everything is 5 acres. It's served on site wastewater through a lagoon, as you can see here, kind of at the east side of the property. And the building that's used for the event center does not have indoor plumbing to it, but they intend, and I'll let Kathleen talk about that, but they intend to use the restroom facilities in the home on an as-needed basis. They do that now and intend to continue that. I talked at length with the code enforcement and health officials with the county, and they said they had no problem with that. If there ever comes a need to make improvements to where they can add that in, they'll be able to go into the same lagoon system and it won't be a problem. So, as I said, staff's recommending approval as outlined in the regulations with the waiver of the one standard. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for staff? Seeing none? Oh, yes, Mr. Green.
Do we have any indication, or has there been any inquiry about subdividing the property there to the north that basically is adjacent to where this request for the waiver?
No, I did get a phone call from that landowner and explained the operation and the extent of the use, and he had no objections and indicated no interest at this time to develop anything. The issue, given the proximity they are to Hayesville, they're in Hayesville's area, and I think probably a higher development activity would wait until we got infrastructure out there, because there is no public water or public sewer in the area. So it would not be until we got those amenities extended further to the west from coming out of Hayesville.
Any other?
Thank you.
Seeing no other questions, agent or applicant, please state your name and address.
I'm blocked.
Push it a little to the left. Yeah. That's all right.
Hi, my name is Kathleen Garrison. I live at 8720 South Hoover Road. I gave you guys a copy of my brochure, just in case you wanted to see the pictures close up. And just a little more background information on me on my resume, so you know where I come from. Thank you for letting me speak today. I've got some slides here for you. As you know, I won't repeat what I'm here for, the conditional use. This is a picture of the backyard area that I use occasionally, not too often yet, but if they need to, they can set up the tables and chairs out there. I've only actually had 2 weddings that we needed that for. So most of the time they can be inside the building. And then if they just have the ceremony on that back porch, then they pick up their chairs and move them. This is the inside of my house. The nice thing about my venue is I allow people to get ready there. And they seem to really like that. They don't have to rent a hotel room or do everything at home and rush over there. So I open up my house to them to use. And that's why the bathrooms are available and all that. There's, I didn't take a picture of it, but there's actually like a dressing room for the brides, and the downstairs areas for the guys, kind of their man cave. This is the inside of the building, the shed that you saw on the other plat. I've done a lot of work to it. This was just a typical workshop. We ran our commercial landscaping company out of there since we moved there 9/11, the week of 9/11 in 2001. We ran a commercial landscaping business, Early Bird Lawn Care. So this was full of grease and, you know, just all of our equipment. When the company dissolved and I got the house, I put a lot of money in this. I stained the concrete floor. Now it has I guess I should point here. The walls and the ceiling all have insulation. That's why I had to cover the walls with the wood. And then they all have insulation. So now I have a shop furnace that hangs from the ceiling. I can use it in the, you know, cooler spring and fall, and then into the winter if they could fit the amount of people. Because I haven't had the fire department out there yet to tell me officially, but I know I can't fit more than 100 people in the inside. I feel more comfortable with about 75, 80-ish, you know, to have room to get around and eat and all that. This is more of the backyard area. This is like a little playground. It's, when you were looking at the tables and chairs, that's right adjacent to it. The deck is over here where this patio area is. And so it works nice because that right there is the building, and then they just come right out the back door there and the kids can play. And this was just a little gazebo that my nephew built for me to use, but most people like the big deck better. Okay, this is my little commercial. That's my granddaughter. That's a little stage that we built together. So mostly I just want to say I care a lot about making special memories for people, and I can't really explain how this all got started because there was a lot of events, but I know I am giving a service to the surrounding community that's needed. I've got pages and pages and pages of, these are all individual people that have come out to view it. Just since pretty much, well, this is just since January, since the last bridal show, because I had to start over. So I have another book, from last year. And then I've got, as you can see, let's see, we're into May. I've got all of June booked. I don't have anything in July, so if you want to do something in July, I got lots of space. I've got most of August, all of September, all of October, 3 in November, and that's it. And then I've also got some for next year already. So I know it's needed. I have a very affordable price. I'm pretty much between $500 to $1,000 below everyone else's cost, and that's mostly because I have no overhead. I have to make my mortgage payment whether I have a business or not. And so I try to keep my costs very low. I give all my services are included. I don't add on anything, and people love it. And I'm even more affordable for smaller events, that aren't as involved as a wedding. And anyways, I have restrictions myself that I already place on it, and I'd be more than willing to accept whatever other restrictions you want. But like, they can't stay later than 11 p.m. I ask them to clean up everything. I am there during the whole event and monitor it, go out there several times. Everyone knows that this is a private event. It's not a public facility. It's not like someone can just drive up and walk in and have a party. They have to be interviewed with me. I have to accept them. There's people I have not rented to because I didn't feel comfortable with them. I have the right to do that. But, one guy showed up and he had a weapon on the outside of his, clothing, and I don't like that. I don't want weapons at my place. I don't serve the alcohol. I do not have a liquor license, but I do allow them to bring it on. But they know that I explain to them the rules and the laws on that they have to hire a licensed bartender, or they have to serve it themselves, and they're responsible for who they serve it to and how much. And I don't cook there. I don't want to cook. I don't want the responsibility. But they can bring in their catering. Their food's already prepared. So, I just give them a deep freeze to put the ice in. But if I have 150 or more guests, I recommend that they get the porta potties, because I just don't want, there's to be too much. We have 3 bathrooms, but it's a lagoon, so I don't want too much use there. But honestly, my average party is, I'd say 60 to 75. Everyone says they want 100 people, but no, 100 people don't really show up. So that's just the nature of the game. But I'm a little bit worried because they said that I should only have up to 100, but I think that was a little miscommunication because he didn't realize I had room for more than that outside. So I would like that not to be a absolute restriction on the amount in case somebody needs more than that. And the only thing that I might need to change later is right here, this is concrete. It's just basically a driveway, an approach to that building, and there's nothing else there. It would be wonderful if I could eventually cover that. Just have a permanent, metal or pergola or something covering that to protect us from the rain and sun. I don't really want to go through the expense of adding on to the building itself and making it permanent. It's just a lot more cost. But if I could just at least set tables and chairs and have some covering out there. I don't know when I'm going to do that, but I'd like to have permission for that if I can. But other than that, it's pretty
Kathleen, thank you. That's probably one of the best videos we've had in a long time.
You're welcome.
Any questions for the presenter?
Any questions?
Seeing none? Oh, Mr. Foster.
Yes, thanks for your presentation. The question would be please describe a little bit further your thoughts related to limiting to 100 the guests.
I would really like to know I think Mr. Yearout said that the fire department will come out and inspect things. I'd like to know what their official count is in the building. I just know setting up my tables, I'm not comfortable with more than 100 inside. But that outdoor area in the backyard, there's a table and chair company that's just down the road from me. And when we were going to have my daughter's wedding there, I had him come out and tell me, kind of estimate the max I could have out there with brown tables and chairs. And he said 200. That's the only reason I'm going with that, is that he said reasonably I can fit that many in my nice irrigated area. This is all irrigated over here. So, I mean, there's like a ton of space there. So there's lots of parking here. This is all rocked, and there's like a little access road here that goes to the back, but it's not rocked. It's just grass. So I don't know how to officially count how many cars can fit, but not everybody drives one car per person. So, you know, I think I can accommodate that many.
Do you require any type of security?
I tell them I can get them security. I don't require it. Honestly, I've just had such wonderful, wonderful people. It's just not been an issue. I've had no problem with anybody causing any trouble.
What about the trash and beer cans and so on?
Yeah, I have 3 large, rolling trash cans. I go out there and make sure they're taken care of during the event, because I don't want people to have it all piled up, and then I just put it out by my curb. But I mean, I would like to we used to have a large one for our business that, not humongous, but bigger, but they just, it's like $100 a month, and right now I'm paying $40. So eventually I'll probably get to that point where it'd be more convenient just to have Waste Management, come and pick up the big one, but I don't want to pay for it any sooner than I have to. But it's worked out okay. I'll probably bump that up and eventually.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we will go out to the audience. Anyone in the audience wish to speak on this agenda item?
Sir.
Please come to the podium and state your name and address, sir. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lauren Wormington. I have the house to the south right there and the property to the east. I'm not either side on this, but I want to know if the county will put in the conditional use permit time. What time it has to be over? What is the time? We live there, we got to sleep at night.
It shows 11 p.m. in our agenda.
And what happens if it goes past that? So I called and I couldn't get these answers.
Well, no, you didn't ask me that, but it's in the restrictions to be at 11 p.m. Everything on enforcement is complaint driven. So if somebody complains to the enforcement office, they will follow up with the owner. And that's true of any zoning issue anywhere in the county, that if there's a condition of operation that's not being met, the county officials will contact them, give them the opportunity to make sure it doesn't happen again.
And they can also call the sheriff's office to get immediate response, or at least theoretically immediate.
How many events a year? Is it unlimited?
There was not a restriction on the number of events per year. It's more driven by the demand in the public marketplace.
Okay, that's it.
Thank you for your comments, sir. Anyone else from the audience wish to speak? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the committee for action.
Any rebuttal?
Do you think we should? You got 2 minutes to rebuttal if you'd like. Okay. Mr. Foster.
Ms. Garrison, I still want to get clarified here. We've got a condition here, number 4. It states,
Go ahead to the podium, please.
the size of the events shall be limited to no more than 100 people at one event, with all events ending by 11 p.m. How would you like that better revised so it works with what you're trying to do? Because it doesn't say whether that one event is indoors, outdoors.
Right. Well, I advertise it as an outdoor venue, and I don't want to be restricted to just being indoors, because that's what people want. They want to be able to go in and out.
Dave, it'd probably just be subject to the
There's a
designation.
fire. Fire's going to have to make an interpretation on the interior
So
part of it.
if you want to make a motion to that extent, I mean, that's the way it's going to be. But they'll make the determination on the
Would they
limitation.
make the determination on the exterior as well?
Well, we believe that the 100, and Dave, can you confirm this, that the 100 for inside the building is anything over that requires the building to be sprinkled? And that's.
Not sure what the fire would require, but in terms of the issue of a maximum number, I would easily suggest, if the commission is acceptable, that we indicate that the occupancy load of the building be as determined by fire, but the total number of people available on site would be, and if you want to move it to 200 with the outside use, that's fine.
Well said, that's what I was thinking.
And let me ask the applicant one more. Is 200 starts to sound a little strong to me relative to just traffic and so forth?
I honestly don't expect 200 probably ever there, but I would like to, that I would be comfortable with that as a condition, because I have to put something on my advertising. I have to put a number. And so if I can at least say that, that's the maximum capacity outdoors, then I think that would suffice.
200 total, including indoor.
But I distinguish between the two. I differentiate. I can only have 100 indoors or up to 200 outdoors.
So you could have 300 on site then?
No, not at the same time. I'm talking, the total for the event would be 200 maximum.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
thank
Sorry
you.
about that.
She may have some events that don't use the inside.
And I might add, if I sat down with the county code office, because in the site plan, you'll notice there's not necessarily a quantifiable amount of parking spaces shown, but we estimated upwards of 100 to 120 parking spaces are provided in the areas reserved for parking on the site plan. So we're not anticipating, even at that higher number of occupancy, a parking demand beyond what's already available on site.
Mr. Warren.
I would move to approve per staff comment with the condition that the event limit of occupation would be 200 and a limit on the inside the venue to be no more than 100, or stipulation on fire code, what the fire department determines as the legal limit, whichever is less.
Well said.
Second.
And Mr. Johnson seconded. Mr. Bill Johnson. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Thank you. Good luck. Looks like a nice venue. Okay, any other business to come before MAPC? If not, we're adjourned. And now we will take up our BZA agenda. Open the meeting. Okay. We have minutes from the April 19th meeting.
Move approve.
Second.
Moved by Mr. McKay, seconded by Ms. Miles.
Could I point out that on page 15, the very last page, it has where the signature is of secretary, it has Derek Slocum instead of Dave Yearout. So that needs to be changed to make it legal, probably. So that's the only thing I found in that one.
And you'll accept that change?
Sure.
Ms. Miles?
He must not have a whole lot to do, but that's all right.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, passes 14-0. First item is BZA 2018-00019, city variance to permit a rooftop sign on a new building on property zone CBD, Central Business District, at the east side of McLean Boulevard and north of Douglas Avenue. Who's presenting that? Oh, yeah, does anyone on the commission wish to hear that item?
Staff questions.
Anybody wish to hear it? Anybody in the audience wish to hear it? Okay, we'll simply reserve this for a staff question. Mr. Foster.
Do you want to do the staff question now, or do you want to
We're gonna
come back after
have it
20?
right now.
I got two questions.
Okay.
One is,
I lost my agenda.
how is okay, safety is obviously an issue on these types of signs. And my question is, who reviews these in terms of wind load? And second, what wind load are these figured to?
I don't have the answers to that. That was, in my conditions, I have that the sign, a sign permit will be obtained, and that if necessary, MABCD will need to issue building permits. I don't know the building code standards for these type of structures. The intention was that that provision will trigger the requirement for the applicant to pull a sign permit, and in that process, if they determine that there is some kind of discrepancy or safety issue, then the structure that would be needed to mount the sign on would then have to have the proper building permits pulled. But I don't know what the tolerances are for that kind of thing.
I just want to make sure, you know, public safety, that there is a mechanism for the review and all that, so the permit process will take care of that.
That's the intention of that provision, yes, although I can't give you the what kind of changes we need to make. Or
anyone else?
The second question is, you know, just given some background on this, I'm suspecting there's a reason why the sign code doesn't have an allowance for rooftop signs. I'm curious, what might those reasons be? Is it aesthetic? Is it public safety? Because if we're going to allow all of these, why don't just change the sign code?
Well, so I don't want to speculate too much about why the sign code does not have provisions for these, although I do know that in my fairly limited experience, there are a lot of cities that had previous versions of their sign code that did not incorporate this kind of thing, and after updating their sign code, there's usually some kind of provision in there for it due to this same thing. Whether or not Wichita needs to do that is, you know, a whole other subject, but I guess what I'm just trying to communicate is that it's fairly common for these to not be accounted for in the sign code, but the reasons for that I would say probably vary, and it could be something as simple as when the sign code was made, it just wasn't that relevant because no one was asking for this kind of thing. It could be that simple.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Kyle? Seeing none, do we have a motion?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Blick, seconded by Mr. McKay for approval with staff recommendations. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 14-0 passed. Next item would be BZA 2018-00020, city variance to permit an off-premise sign for League 42 on property zone GI, General Industrial, generally located north side of East 17th Street North and west of I-135. Would anyone wish to hear this item? Anyone in the audience wish to talk about it? Okay. Who's presenting it?
That would be
Kyle?
me.
Okay.
So this is a variance request to allow an off-site sign on the property that's indicated on your screen right now. The reason for this request is because just south of here, Right here, this area is a park. As you can see here, it's a little fuzzy, but due to the proximity that this sign has to a park, the sign code requires that off-premise signs have a minimum required distance of 660 feet from any city-owned park or that kind of use, as well as the Arkansas River. Obviously, the Arkansas River is not an issue in this particular instance. So that is what has triggered this.
Arkansas here, Tom.
You sure tell he's not a native.
I stand by what I said.
You're being indoctrinated very quickly.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I run into that from time to time.
You went to KU, didn't you?
I did go to KU, yes, more than one time.
Explains it.
So what you can see here, this rendering is just an approximation. This is not intended to be the exact siting location of the sign, but just to give kind of a general sense. And I believe that in the packets that you all received, there's a couple of extra ones here. So this park right here is the reason why this sign requires a variance. The uniqueness of this particular case is that the entity using the park is actually the one requesting that this variance be approved. So the idea is that the sign is constructed and then the ad space is sold and the revenue that is generated goes to funding the baseball league that has operations here. Here's just some site photos. So somewhere in your visual, I can't give you an exact location, but visually in this area you would be seeing a billboard sign. This is looking east. This is, again, there's 135 right there. Here's the park that's just south. As you can see in these two pictures, there's a row of trees here as well. And then this is looking west. So something else that's, I think, relevant to point out is that as of right now, the applicant is proposing that the north-facing side of the sign would probably be an electronic face, whereas the southern-facing part of the sign would be a more traditional static image. I don't know what the proper terminology is, but non-electronic sign. Yes, if there's any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Questions? Okay. We'll go to the audience for comment. Anyone wishing? Oh, the applicant.
First, or you want the audience first?
No, let's go with the applicant first. While you're moving up there, I'd also like to recognize Bob Lutz is the co-founder of League 42, who's in the audience with us today, and we appreciate him being here.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, my name is Greg Ferris. I'm here today to represent League 42 in this application. As you pointed out, Mr. Lutz is here from League 42. Also here's Matt Voss, who is with the Murphin Company, who is purchasing this property and leasing it to League 42 for $1 a year. And this is really a project that is all donation. I'm donating my time. Mr. Lutz is donating his time. Mr. Voss is donating his time, because we think this is a great organization that can really do a lot of things for the community that's there. I think I've outlined in my presentation. I won't go through it all in detail, just ask that it will be part of the record, the reasons, the 5 reasons that state law allows this variance. I would point out a couple of things. This is a highly industrial area. It's general industrial. It's not even light industrial. It's general industrial. We would be allowed a sign here without any restrictions or regulations. It meets all the other criteria of the sign code. The only thing that is an issue is the proximity to the park itself. And because the park is in the baseball fields in particular, are the area of the park that is within the 660 feet, and League 42 is going to be utilizing those facilities, we think that this variance is appropriate. The remainder of the park that is used by the general public on a regular basis is over 660 feet, so I think that's an important aspect of this. I'm not going to go into a lot of other detail. We'll be glad to answer any questions, and then, maybe if I need an extra couple of minutes during rebuttal, I would reserve that, would ask for that at the time, but rather than go through it now, maybe address whatever specific issues, but we'll be glad to answer any questions.
Give you that latitude at a later time. Okay.
Greg, during the presentation by staff, they said that it would be, the sign would be put there, and then it'd be leased out, and the income would go to certain situations. Now, is the 42 organization be the only advertisement on? I just want a clarification.
No, they're going to offer this through one of the companies that sells advertising. League 42 will be able to put their information on there, but also they will sell those ads and then capture that income to be able to offset their operating expenses to help them grow the program.
I just didn't want a misunderstanding that this is because the applicant is League 42.
Correct.
They're going to be the ones using it. That's
No,
the
that
reason
is
why I
right, Mr. McKay. Thank you for pointing that out.
Any other questions, Mr. Warren?
Very good. You've got a shape and a size, but you don't really have a design for the sign. Who's the sign designed to capture? Is this traffic along the interstate, or is this going to be?
Yes, sir. This is going to, and if you'll notice, there is the curve of the interstate there, and it will be slightly angled to catch the southbound traffic. That'll be the primary face that will be the digital face. So yes, it is exclusively to be captured by I-35 traffic. The backside will be a static display, but the static displays with a cross read like that really won't be very marketable.
Is the tree line is it going to be a viable sign based
yeah,
on the
there's
tree
a there,
line?
and that's a good point. They have been in contact with the TWI, I believe, is the contractor they're working with for the actual sign itself, and they've been in contact with KDOT. KDOT allows you to trim trees in the right of way with a permit for off-site signs, and they have been in contact with KDOT to make sure that is going to be feasible.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant?
I'll stand by for questions afterwards.
Okay, we'll go to the audience for comments. Anyone in the audience like to make a comment?
Good afternoon. My name is Van Buchanan. I did go to KU. I did major in geography, and it's Arkansas.
Could you state your address?
I have worked or owned property
Could you state
adjacent
your
to this
address?
area for 35 years, since 1983.
Could you state your address?
Say again?
Could you state your address?
Oh, I'm sorry. We're at 1840 and 1850 North Ohio.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. I would simply say to start, this was presented to us as a sign for K42. It was not presented as a billboard or an electronic sign. I think you'd see more people here if they knew that. My biggest worry with this.
Sir, use the mouse if you could. We like to mess people up.
Pardon me. Okay. You get people with white hair in these things. If you look at the curve on the interstate there, as recent as 10:45 this morning, you had a major accident up there going southbound. You turn slightly to the south. If we put a big sign up there, once again, it's going to make that even more dangerous than it is now. I don't want to be the Darth Vader for K42 because I totally support it. But I do think this sign is a safety issue. And all of our folks work down there, and I wouldn't want a gasoline truck to get in a wreck on that corner. And I'd answer any questions anybody would have.
Questions? Mr. Blick.
Sir.
Do you see a benefit for any billboard sign that's on any highway or anything like that? Or
Oh,
is it
absolutely.
just,
I love Burma Shave.
Or is it just that location?
Just that location.
Okay, I was just wondering.
Because there are a number of accidents, especially in the wintertime, because you're going in the air there and it ices before anything. And like I said, even this morning, 10:45, big wreck. And we don't want people to sit there and text as they're going down the road. If these signs are changing, the pictures are changing, to me, it's a distraction.
Mr. Klausmeyer.
If it was a static sign, would you have the same concern?
I would not be as concerned. But if it's changing, I would have a major concern.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now, we'll have rebuttal.
Mr. Chairman, again, my name is Greg Ferris. I understand his point. These come up from time to time whenever I deal with off-site signs of any reason. However, I think that there's a whole misnomer of changeable faces. First of all, they change every 8 seconds, so it's not like it's a distraction in that regard. Most traffic on this road, except in the peak time, is going 50 to 60 miles an hour, which means they will see one change possibly during their visual. And that's kind of the goal of an off-site sign or a digital face, is to see the change on one change every person that is able to see. Might see two, but there has been numerous studies done on these changeable face signs as to whether or not they are traffic hazards or traffic issues. JR's not here. If he was, I think he could attest to the fact that those studies have shown that there is not a correlation between changeable face signs and accidents. It's just not. I mean, it's a nice thought. We talk about it, but it's just, there's no correlation. Never been any documentation or proof of that. So I appreciate his concern and his issue. I mean, that road has accidents without it. I don't think we're going to have more accidents because of it. So I'm not sure how that really applies to the variance itself. Be glad to answer any questions in more specific detail on that.
Mr. Warren.
Greg, Mark, and this may be more of a staff question. I'm less concerned about the fact that the sign changes the message as I am with how bright the signs can be. I know there's some limitations on that.
I can probably answer that for you. In the daytime, there's a limitation, but it really is meaningless because, the brightness of those signs is not really an issue. At night, they have to be cut way back. I think it's 3,000. Excuse me, 3,000 nits, but there's a very strict, and when you apply for a sign, you actually have to submit documentation that sign has the ability to automatically dim when the sun goes down, and it has to be able to dim within the parameters, and that's part of the sign code and part of the application process. It's required.
Any other questions for the presenter?
I'll stand by if you have any others, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. We'll bring it back to the commission. Mr. McKay.
Back when we did the sign ordinance years and years ago, this was a major concern, if you remember, Dale. All up and down Kellogg or any of the major thoroughfares. And so I think they've pretty well taken care of it with our sign deal. And with that, I'd like to make a motion for approval.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McKay, second by Mr. Blick, and we have a little discussion. Mr. Foster.
Mr. Ferris mentioned that there are controls built in, I suppose, but are we certain that that's consistent with all signs? Should we have a stipulation in there that that whatever sign is put, it's going to have those controls in there relative to lighting and so forth?
That's in the sign code.
That's in the sign code.
Okay, great.
Any other questions? Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 13-1. And we are adjourned.